Welcome back, everyone, to Reading by Candlelight at Molly's Cottage. I'm here with Nadia. It's Mahjouri, isn't it?
Mahjouri. It's yes.
Mahjouri.
However you say it is perfect.
Thank you, Nadia Mahjouri, debut author of Half Truth, which is here, and it
And
features
yeah.
and it features in the February General Fiction Book Box. Welcome, Nadia.
Thank you so much.
Now, for those who don't know, Nadia and I have known each other for 4 years since we both did a masterclass with best-selling author Fiona McIntosh. And I want to thank you for including me and the other writers in our masterclass in the book's acknowledgement. That was such a lovely surprise when I
Oh, such a pleasure. I mean, honestly, I can't imagine getting to the point of publication without all of the writer friends that I have. Like, it's just an incredibly supportive world. And so I've just been so grateful to everyone who has kind of cheered me along and been there at my, when I'm kind of, I don't know if I'm ever going to get there. And then, of course, celebrating when great things happen. So yeah, thank you. And it's really, I loved writing the acknowledgements. I could have gone on and on and on. Actually, they're kind of like, 600 words is about right. And I'm like, yeah, I think I've written about 3,000.
and it's because you have so many friends in the writing world. That's it.
I'm a gusher. I'm a gusher from way back. And it's a first novel, I think first novels tend to be like she in the end, she went, look, we know that debut novelists have got more people to thank, as you go on and you're like, yeah, I'd just like to thank my, agent or like, husband.
And one of those mentioned is Jo Dixon, who has herself been in the Reading by Candlelight book boxes twice. So hopefully you can do the same.
Oh, let's hope so.
And I'm going to apologize in advance to everyone listening, because if we just sound like two friends having a chat, basically, because this is what it is. Exactly that. Now, before we begin, I'm going to give our readers a little bit of background. Nadia lives in Hobart, Nipaluna, with her beautiful family and works as a counsellor and group facilitator and specialising in maternal mental health. And her professional background, is in health policy, academia, focusing on ethics and feminist philosophy. Her writing has been shortlisted for several competitions. She's been awarded writing mentorships, fellowships, including a stint at the prestigious Varuna Writers' House in New South Wales. Her debut novel, Half Truth, was released on the 11th of February, which is only 2 weeks ago. So exciting.
Wow. Yeah, it feels both like forever and just, I can't believe it's been 2 weeks already that it's out in the world.
And I hear you had the biggest
surreal experience.
turnout for your book launch.
Oh my God, it was so beautiful. The Hobart launch was just incredible. And I had a Moroccan family too, making mint tea and biscuits. And, it was, they said they've never had like such a kind of rousing round of applause before we even started. Like I sat down and everyone was like, yeah. All I did was sit down. But I think it was just relief at the end of this writing process that I finally got there. Everyone's like, oh, hallelujah, she's finished.
Now, maybe some of the readers don't know, but Half Truth was inspired by your own experience of traveling to Morocco with your baby boy in search for your father. Now, can you give us a spoiler-free pitch of your book?
Yeah, sure. So you're absolutely right. Half True is probably half true. Maybe a little less than half. But it is the story of two women who are searching for the same man. And the first of these women is Zarah. And Zarah is a young Tasmanian mum. And she is really struggling with motherhood. She's just had her first baby and she's living in the remote Tasmanian kind of bottom of Bruny Island. And she's never met her father who's Moroccan. And she's kind of always wondered, but the combination of kind of overwhelm of having her new baby and kind of that notion of not really knowing who she is in new motherhood really pushes her to go and start to find out the truth about what happened to her father, who is he, where is he, and, what is this country that, is half of her genetic makeup that she's never kind of been around. But the other character is Zarah, is Khadija, and Khadija is an elderly Berber woman, and she is at the time that we meet her, she's kind of on her deathbed, and she's living in Marrakesh, and she is thinking back over her life, and she hasn't seen her firstborn son since he left 25 years ago, and she would really love to see him again. And she's wondering what could she have done to stop him disappearing, which he has done. So these two women are searching for the same man, but they don't know each other, and that's kind of the story is about how they kind of come together and yeah, work out the truth of what's happened.
Now, this must have been such an important story for you to write. What was it especially about your own story that you wanted to share with readers?
I mean, initially I didn't start writing for publication. So I started writing for my kids, really. Like, this was a story that I always knew there were two impetuses for it. One was that as soon as I heard about my grandmother, actually, I knew that I wanted to write her story. And I don't know how or why I knew that, but she was the true parts I know of her story, which is not very much. She had actually already passed away when I went to Morocco the first time, so I never met her. But what I did hear about her was that she had had my father at 13. She'd been married at 11. So, and that she'd come from a little village outside of Marrakesh. And I went to that village and I met her, sisters and the villagers on kind of orange groves. And I just couldn't help wondering, who is this girl? Like, what was her life like when she was this little girl here, then got married, and, just her kind of mind blowing. And of course, that was very ordinary at the time. It sounds extraordinary to me, but she was just a very, if you passed her in the street, she would have been a little old Moroccan lady and you wouldn't have given her a second glance, kind of thing. But I just thought, I want to imagine what it would be like to be her. And then the other impetus was, of course, I had gone to Morocco to try and find my father, and I'd never met him, and my mum really never talked about him. And when I did actually arrive there, I discovered that my father hadn't been there for 25 years. And so I discovered this family who had been searching for him, and really they had all turned out to see me in the hope that I would have news of my father, but I didn't. And so I had this story that every time I told people the story, they would say, like, oh, you've got to write, that's got to be a book. Do you really? Like, I would tell this story and they'd be like, oh, you've got to write that. And I just thought, I remember my husband and I were camping, and I remember we had one of those conversations that kind of goes, if I were to, I think he was turning 50 actually, and we were having that, like, we're getting old, and, what do you want to do before you die, kind of thing. Like, now is the time to live our bucket list. Like, we shouldn't wait, we shouldn't assume we've got forever, So, and for me, when we kind of said, look, what would you regret not doing? If you were to die in 5 years and you hadn't done it, what would you regret? And for me, it was not writing this novel. Like, I knew I had it in me, and I thought if I died and my kids didn't know this story, I would be really upset. So that's kind of was the impetus, and that's also why kind of I wrote it the way I did, because it took me a long time to figure out that these two stories actually linked. And of course the link was this the absence of this man, and the life lived in the absence. And because he was like my father, who kind of did abandon us, I didn't want it to be about him. Like, I really wanted this novel to be about the women, and the women who kind of lived in his absence, or like in the space that he had left.
Yes, or despite his absence.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
And I think that, I love a dual timeline. And one of the most beautiful parts of the book is how the reader sees both Zarah and her grandmother coming of age in their respective timelines, but decades apart. So it doesn't matter that you've been separated all your lives. There are always things that we do as women that our grandmothers and great grandmothers did. And, and we fall in love, and we have families, and we give birth, and we tend houses. And so I think that that's the beautiful duality of the story. And it was such an important part of it. So by representing both of them in the book, that must have been so important to you.
It really was. And yeah, thank you for saying that, because that's exactly how I felt as I was writing 𝘏𝘢𝘏𝑗𝑎. The woman based on my grandmother, she was born in the 30s. She was born in a tiny village outside of Marrakesh. She had the traditional facial tattoo. She was an Amazigh woman, so she was a Berber indigenous Moroccan woman, and her life was so different to mine. But yet, as I imagined myself into her life, I felt like it was so easy to inhabit her kind of, her existence. It was so easy for me. She had, she's thinking back over raising adolescent boys and kind of, and she's watching them kind of grow up, and they're tall and lanky and beautiful, but she can still see the little baby that they were, and yet she can't keep them safe anymore like she could when they were teeny tiny. And at the same time as I wrote that, I had adolescent boys, and I remember I was feeling exactly that way. I was thinking, oh my God, they're so beautiful, but they don't know their own, power, or, they don't know how dangerous they are in the world because they've still got the little brains of children, and as a mother, you see the child, in the big man body, but that no one else in the world sees the child. Everyone else just sees the big man body. Do you know what I mean? And so, I really felt for her, and I felt, she has friendship dramas, and, she falls out with a friend, and I was like, so much of her life, when I'm writing her, she's a middle-aged woman, and in a lot of ways, even though Zarah is based on me, so I was that 22-year-old new mum, and I did go to Morocco. I'm 48 now. Like, I'm not Zarah anymore. I'm much more Khadija now than I am, a confused new mum that has no idea. Now. Yeah, so it's interesting even just thinking about kind of it being half true, because there was a lot of my truth now in the older woman.
Yeah, and it must have been
Yeah.
nice to connect with your grandmother in that way, even though you never met
Yeah.
her. I
It
love.
was so beautiful. And and I got to really do a lot of research about, what were the kind of what kind of rituals were there around birth, in the villages that she lived in, and what kind of beliefs would she have had about the spirits and the jinn and the genies that are kind of, these, and what kind of fairy tales would she have told her children, or would she have been told as a child? So, that was just so much fun for me, because I just felt like I'd been going back to Morocco by this stage for 25 years, but I felt like I just got to get another layer underneath underneath the surface of the country by kind of having to do this research, which was just so much fun.
But you're an academic, so I'm certain you loved doing the research.
Yeah, I did. I did. It was a lot of fun. And actually it is a trap when you're writing, because, you could research forever. There is like an endless, it's a bottomless kind of ocean that you dive into when you dive into research. You're like, oh, no, I just need one more paper. I just need one more book. I just need, and of course I was always waiting for the books to come from like in translation, or, from some ancient reprint of an ethnographic text from 1926. So they all cost like $600 and took 6 months to arrive. So it's not a great idea.
Now, because I feel like the book probably feels like it took a lifetime to write because you lived some of it first. But how long did it actually take to write once you'd worked out your structure?
Yeah, that's a good question. I think I really committed at the end of 2019. That was when we did that camping trip. I think it was November 2019. And I started writing by 2020. Obviously, 2020 happened. And actually, for me, it was perfect. By the time we went into lockdown, I had about 20,000 words, and I was kind of on a train, like I knew where I was going. And then all of a sudden I just had all of this, I had young kids, and I know that sounds like it should be awful, but actually it was like the mental load just completely dissipated for me. I didn't have to do school lunches. We didn't have to do birthday parties, after school activities, all that little like mental, like tick, 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 tick load that I just kind of fills your brain every day. It just disappeared. And all of a sudden I was like, I didn't even have to get them dressed. Like, they could just stay in their pajamas all day. Like, we weren't going anywhere. Like, and even when we kind of opened up again in Tassie, there still weren't parties. There still weren't events. There still wasn't after school activities. It was still, well, the world stayed very small. And even better, my husband was home. So we really could tag team. Like, for the first time ever, I could be like, go and hassle your dad. I'm writing. Like, he's working, I'm working, whatever, like, it was great. So for me, that was a really productive year. And actually, when now I'm writing my second novel, it would be really great if the world would just shut down again. Like, that would make that would make my writing life much easier. Yeah. So if there's a second pandemic, it's my fault, because I've got another novel to write.
I think many writers would agree with you.
Yeah, I mean, I know a lot of people had the opposite experience, but yeah, for me, because I think I was already on a train, like I already knew where I was going, it was just the perfect moment for me. But yeah, so that's 2020 that I was kind of really writing first draft. 2020, I think I had a deadline by April 2021 to get a manuscript ready to send in for a manuscript assessment, which was kind of where yeah,
And
started the process.
did you go back to Morocco with the idea of the book in your head and actually research that way?
No, because of 2020.
Not because of 20.
Yeah, because of all the borders shut. So we had a trip planned for 2020 in June. We had booked to go. So not really about research for the book. Actually, it was more about the fact that I try and go every 4 or 5 years, and we'd been when the kids were little, and it was about the right time for us to go. The kids were about to start school, that kind of thing. So it seemed like, the right time to go. But yeah, so I actually didn't go at all. But that said, I have been lots of times now. So yeah, so it's 25 years since the first trip that I went where I found my family. And I have just developed this beautiful relationship, particularly with one aunt. So my grandmother was so young when she had my father. So she was 13 when she had my father, but she went on having children until she kind of couldn't anymore. So my aunts are very close to my age. So they're like, so their kids are the same age as Ali. So, so I was meeting women that had young kids who were my aunts, but were really more like kind of cousin, sistery kind of ages. So one aunt in particular and I and our kids have kind of grown up now over 25 years together. So a lot of that was already, already I'd done the research, like in terms of I could put myself in the country very easily. I'd spent so much time there. I'd spent, yeah. So no, I didn't get to go back. We didn't go back until, a couple of years ago. And
Yes,
yeah.
yes, I've seen your photos from it. It looks like an absolutely amazing country. It's so colorful.
Yes, 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 yes. Colorful
Like
is the right,
everywhere.
is the right word. Yeah, yeah,
It's just
yeah.
beautiful. All the buildings are so colorful. I mean, none of this gray, boring stuff for them. Oh my
Well,
goodness.
it's interesting. Every town kind of has its own color. Like,
Oh,
I know, it's so
I love
cool. So
that.
there are kind of white towns, and there's a blue town, and there's like, and then Marrakesh is like the reddy orange kind of ochre. So yeah, I mean, they cross over a lot, but yeah, major cities, and even the taxis will have to be that color. Like from that, yeah, it's cool.
And
Yeah,
they're all the
that's a
colors in your
Marrakesh
book
taxi because it's
too.
kind of orange.
The
Sorry.
colors in your book.
Yeah, on the
I
cover. Yeah.
love
Yeah,
that.
I loved that. That was my they were kind of like, what do you like? And I was kind of like, look, well, the Marrakesh and the ochre color is, really important. But then they gave me kind of 9 options of covers. And
Oh,
I know it was completely, I mean, they were just roughs, like they weren't, but they were pretty like, they looked close enough. And only there was this one and another one that was like the more like the kind of blue what do you call it, like the Moroccan tile design kind of thing. And I really loved it. Like I loved this one and I loved the blue tile design, but my agent said no, this one's going to stick out a lot more, and she was absolutely right. Like
and
in a bookshop you're going to notice this one a lot more.
I love that the figure on the front has your hair.
She does, doesn't she? I
Yeah.
mean, she actually originally she had a head covering on, and the head covering was quite sub-Saharan African, like it wasn't a Moroccan one. So I did say, oh, look, I love this cover, but that hair covering is not right for Morocco. And so I think they may have, like, they didn't want to do real African hair because we'd kind of complained about that on another cover. And so, yeah, so I think maybe they just kind of went, oh, what does she look like? Okay, well, she's Moroccan. Let's make hair like her.
I love that. That's so great.
I know, but I've got like eyes and a nose and like heaps
Yes,
more
you
stuff
do.
on my face. Like I got a whole face.
Thank goodness.
But then someone said to me, oh no, she's faceless because she's searching for her identity. You see, she doesn't
Oh,
know who she is. Yeah. And then I was like, oh, well, I obviously have found my identity. So no wonder I have eyes and a nose.
that's, that's so deep.
I know. I'd never thought of it, but someone at a launch went, oh, I just assumed that she didn't have a face because she was searching for her identity. And I went, oh, that's so good. And she's like, you can use that. I was like, okay, I will.
Here you go. It has been used.
Yeah.
Now, we all have writers who inspire us. Which authors inspire you?
Oh, it's a bit like that's a bit like asking,
Who's
which
your
is your
favorite
favorite
child?
children, isn't it? Like it's yeah, that's right. Yeah, well, it's like asking what's your favorite food and who's your favorite child. It's almost impossible because I have so many writers that I admire and am inspired by for different reasons. So for this novel, I read a lot, and my favorite author she's a Turkish British writer called 𝘏𝘢𝘭𝘧𝘶𝐵𝐻. She's written she's quite prolific. She's had a couple of books out in the last few years. One called The Island of Missing Trees, another called There Are Rivers in the Sky. She also has the most stunning titles. So, and her books are always kind of epic, kind of, like the most recent, There Are Rivers in the Sky. It follows a drop of rain through kind of, millennia almost, and like all the different people that it falls on, and like it turns into a river, and then they're epic and incredible. So I love her, but I'm completely inspired by all of the Tasmanian writers that manage to write and juggle their lives and, keep kids in the, just keep life moving and produce work. I mean, Kate Krumink, I don't know if you know her, but she wrote at 𝐷𝑗𝐻𝑡𝑧, and she
Yes.
won the Vogel for her first novel, A Treacherous Country. She's a Tasmanian author. She wrote her first novel with a newborn on her boob. Like, that then won the Vogel Prize. I mean, it's like, I mean, and not only is that, it's beautiful. Like they're so, like, talk about inspiring. Like it's just, yes, so many people am I,
An
inspired
overachiever,
by.
Kate. What an overachiever Kate is.
I know. I know, but except she's just like so sweet and humble and
Like,
like not at
yeah,
all, not
yeah.
at all, not at all braggy. So you can't even hate her for it.
We can introduce her to Karen Main, who wrote her
Oh,
second
she's one of
novel
those.
with newborn twins.
Oh, yeah. No, that is extraordinary. I mean, extraordinary,
Amazing.
unreasonable and extraordinary.
Now, we should actually mention right now that Nadia hosts a fabulous podcast called The Whole Truth, Motherhood and the Writing Life. And you don't actually have to be a writer to listen to it because it's about so much more. How women keep going amidst the messiness of family life and work and creativity. But you're a mum to five. How do you
I
keep
am.
it all going, Nadia?
Yeah, well, you saw the before hoo-ha of this getting ready for this podcast. Like my life is and I was like, oh God, I can hear them jumping on the trampolines, and there's like it's crazy out there. But I mean, to be honest, three of our kids are adults now. So,
It does
that
help
I've
us
only got
if
two.
you're a bit older.
Exactly. And they, I would say they leave home, but one of the adult kids is here now with their own stepchild. So, it's like, so I've got a grandbaby here as well. So, they do also multiply. But look, I mean, and part of it's in the novel very much, and this is one of the true parts of the novel, is that, it's all I ever wanted was to live in a big family with, a lot of people and a lot of kind of craziness. So, I wouldn't have it any other way.
I love
I
that.
wouldn't know what to do with myself. I had my very first at 22. I don't even know what I'd do in a house that was organized and, quiet. I'd probably go nuts.
Now, is there any books that you've been reading at the moment that you've really enjoyed and you'd like to share with us?
Oh, now, so I've got one here that I haven't read yet that I just picked up today, but I'm really excited about reading it. And it is one from our debut crew 2025, which this was out maybe yesterday or the other day before. So I had pre-ordered it, so I got to run in today and pick it up. And it is a memoir, and it's called 5 Seasons in Seoul, and
Oh,
it's
yeah.
about a lot. Yeah, it's about it's a memoir of a year living in South Korea, and yeah, I'm pretty excited about that. I love a novel or any kind of book where I'm going to get subsumed in a world where I get to like smell new smells and, really like travel, basically. I love traveling. I want to travel from my like, bed. I want to travel I want my book to take me somewhere. But, also I just read, actually, this was one of your recommendations, and I hadn't, was Lisa.
Oh, especially
Elisa Ronald.
yes.
Yes. And I listened to your podcast and I thought, oh, I've got to read that. And so I'm going to chat to Lisa on on my podcast at Special
Oh,
Delivery. It was
yeah.
so much fun about just like a romance about kind of enemies to lovers romance about a male midwife. And it just was so fun. I had so much fun reading it. So yeah, I really am a very, what's the word? I'm a broad church when it comes to my reading. Yeah. My reading preferences. Yeah.
Don't stick to the one thing. That's good. I
No,
like that.
not at all.
I think that Half Truth absolutely begs to have a screen adaptation. I can see the color and vibrancy of Morocco on the
Really?
screen. It would be amazing. Who
Oh,
have you
that's
ever
cool.
thought about who could play your characters? Because I've thought about who could play your character, Zara.
Have you? Oh,
Yes.
I'm interested in what you say because the only idea I've got on this one is, did you watch the Belle Gibson
Apple cider
Netflix
vinegar.
thing?
That's who I'm
It
going
was
to
on
say. Yeah.
apple cider vinegar.
Yes.
Is it
Apple,
Aisha D?
I should
Yes,
be. Yes,
that's who
exactly.
I have. Aisha D
Yes.
from the she played Chantel,
Chanel.
I think, or
Yes.
the
Chanel.
friend Chanel. Yeah, the friend of Belle,
Mel
who's kind of a
Gibson.
manager,
Yes.
and she kind of but she's not really a friend because she's a bit like, oh, I don't know about this girl, but yeah, but yes,
Yes.
I thought of her because she's got
Perfect.
that mixed race
Yes.
but also super Australian. She's a brilliant actress.
Oh,
Yeah, no, you're absolutely right. And she's young and,
yes.
gorgeous. And
Yes.
yeah, no, I reckon she would be perfect. Yes.
I
So
think so too.
let's lock her in.
And she's going to be in the upcoming Stan production, Watching You, which is based on
Oh,
J.P. Kamari's thriller, The Last Guests.
okay.
He's going to be in all these book adaptations. Why not
Oh
your?
yeah, well then yeah, definitely. I'm putting it out there, just like out to the universe. This is we've made a casting decision. It's unanimous.
Now, the Reading by Candlelight Book Club isn't just made up of readers. There's also a lot of writers listening to this. So I was wondering if you had one piece of advice you'd offer aspiring authors, what would it be?
Oh, look, it's probably, I mean, it's the advice I give myself every day, which is the only way to write a book is to sit down and write a book. And thinking about writing a book, while it's important, it's not, you still have to sit down and write the book.
Yeah.
Like, talking about writing the book, just reading books about writing the book, like, or taking courses about writing the book. Like, yeah, the only way to actually write a book is to write a book, but also acknowledging that that's going to mean committing time. That's going to mean committing, resources because, a lot of us have got we've all got other stuff going on. So actually what that really means is committing to putting yourself first, like on that list and like making that the thing, and making it like more important than, all of the million other things that are pulling on you every second of every day, and I'm saying this to me because I need this advice myself, like it's the hardest and the easiest thing, like all at once. It's like,
I absolutely
it's
agree.
not complicated advice. It's like, you want to write a book? So write,
Yes.
and you'll get the book at the end.
Put down that detail.
Exactly. Oh, I'm never like, it's never a tea towel, but it's put down the phone is what it is. Like put down put away your scroll, like
Scrolling.
stop it.
Yeah, agreed.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah.
Absolutely.
That is, if only it was something sensible like cleaning. It's never cleaning for me.
No, me neither.
Never. I wish I was one of those people that clean procrastinated.
Oh,
At least
wouldn't that
something
be
useful would
great?
be
I
happening.
wish no, I'm not that person either.
Yeah, no, I used to have those friends that used to say, oh, you always know when it's exam time because my house is really clean. And I would just think, "Ugh," like I have neither studied nor cleaned. Like,
I have read
but I had a really long bath.
movies in a row.
That's right. Exactly. Or read a really good book or like, yeah,
Exactly.
no, a million other things to do. But yes, that's my best advice for myself. And if only I could take it, I'd be nailing it.
Oh, I think you are nailing it. And guess what? This is the last question. And this is going to say how much you are nailing it. Because can you tell us what you're working on now?
Oh, well,
Are you allowed?
what I'm actually working on now or what I should be working on. No, I am Novel number two is underway.
Yeah.
It's not as underway as I would like it to be in terms of like actual words on the page, but I know exactly what the story is. I know exactly what the story is about. I've done a lot of research because it's historical fiction. So it's historical fiction set in Morocco, set during the Second World War, about a French dancer that
Ooh.
was a spy and has a little, a moment in Marrakesh where things have kind of all gone pretty badly. And it's just about that particular moment in a relationship that she has with a young Moroccan girl. Yeah.
Wow.
So I
That's
love it. I went to
exciting. I love
I,
that.
I am so excited too. I love the idea. It makes me so happy. And I just now want to get it out on the paper. I just now want to get it like it's in there now, and I just got to get it out onto onto the screen. I don't have a second contract, but I know that, I've got an agent, so I'm sure that she will be very happy to find me a home. And, I've had a wonderful time working with Penguin, so my fingers are crossed that they might be interested, but you never know. Like, you've just got to play it by ear. But
You
yeah,
write,
I do.
you write, and it will come.
Yeah,
It
exactly that.
will.
Exactly that.
Because
There's no
your
point
book,
worrying about the
yeah,
next step until I got the damn thing written.
the book is beautiful, Nadia. It will
Oh,
come.
thank you.
No, it is. And it's the time of our interview that we have to say goodbye. I'm really sad. I want to thank you, Nadia, for chatting with me. This has been
Oh
amazing.
my God,
It's
such a pleasure. And I'm so sorry that it started out by I
Oh,
really
don't worry about
had to
that.
scramble, but I'm
Nobody
feeling
needs
very
to
happy.
know about the
Oh
logistics.
yeah, yeah. No logistics. No, there were no
Oh,
hiccups at
no,
all.
it
What
was
hiccup?
all
What?
perfect.
I don't know what you're talking about. Seamless.
Thank you for being by Candlelight's February general fiction book box author.
Thank you
That's
so much for having
exciting.
me.
And you were the very first general fiction novel that Reading by Candlelight has ever had in a book box.
Wow, I do feel so honored, and I just love the book boxes. Like, love, love, love them. I love Molly's candles. They're my favorite in all of history because, yeah. So I am just so grateful. Thank you so much, and thank you for everything that you do for supporting Australian writers. Like, it is really debut writers. It's incredible.
Oh,
We're
thank
so
you. That's
grateful.
so sweet. And I know that our readers are going to love Half Truths because it's such an incredible story born from your own lived life experience. And at its very heart, it's a story of being a woman and being resilient, but it's also multi-generational and it spans decades and continents. And ultimately, it really is, though, just about family and
Yeah,
motherhood, identity, and
yeah,
belonging to someone, belonging to
yeah.
a group. I'm just know that people are going to love it as much as I did.
Thank you so much. I'm so grateful.
And thank you, everyone, for coming along tonight and watching us live. If you're watching this on YouTube or listening to the podcast, I do hope you've enjoyed this episode. Let us know what you think in the Reading by Candlelight Facebook group or on socials. And thanks again, Nadia. And I wish everyone happy reading. Goodbye for now.